They propose no revenue. They only propose cuts and schemes.
This will do terrible damage.
This Republican path to poverty passes like a tornado through America's nursing homes.
That's how some Democrats reacted to Congressman Paul Ryan's budget plan. Many on the left call the cuts a terrible idea. And one of those lefties is David Callahan. He's co-founder of the progressive think tank Demos. Also joining us is Yaron Brook of the Ayn Rand Institute. So, David, this plan sounds weak to me, if anything. We should cut more, but what do you say?
Well, this plan is Robin Hood in reverse. It imposes $3 trillion in cuts on the weakest, most vulnerable people in this country and gives a big tax cut to the richest people. So, you know, the average person making over $1 million would get a tax cut of $125,000 a year from this plan. Because while we're cutting food stamps, we're cutting Medicaid, we're cutting Medicare, it's Robin Hood in reverse, coming on the heels of an era in which the rich have gotten richer and the poor have gotten, you know, shafted.
That we've heard, but what you're talking about is the supposed simplification of the tax code, which would lower the top bracket from 35 to 25.
Right.
You're on?
Well, I agree with you. I think this plan is way too weak. We're running a government deficit that is enormous, 1.7 trillion, as you've seen, and it gets much, much worse as we project.
But he'll say tax the rich. You could make up for it.
You cannot. You could raise the taxes by 100%. You still won't make up the difference. And of course, we know that once you raise the taxes, the rich change their behavior, and you don't actually get the revenue. But look, there's a moral point here as well. I think it's fundamentally wrong to be taking money from some and giving it to others. And to the extent that we reduce that, and to the extent that we reduce the amount of redistribution that's going on out there, that is a good thing. And we need to change the entitlement mentality in this country. The poor need to start thinking about taking care of themselves as they grow older and stop relying on the rich to take care of them.
David?
Well, you're against redistribution,
yes,
but this plan would be one of the biggest redistributions in U.S. history. Upward. We're taking money from the poor.
Wait, it's letting them keep.
It's letting them keep. That's not a redistribution. You're not stealing money from the poor. You're giving them less. No, and we need to end that.
Well, let David.
I mean, just look at the Medicare piece. This is going to double out-of-pocket expenses of Medicare for seniors when that voucher plan kicks in. It's going to, you know, take food stamps away from the poor. I mean, what kind of country?
If that's true, the seniors are the richest group in America. So we're giving them 2 to 3 times what they put in Medicare. Well, they ought to pay more of their share.
There's millions of seniors who live in poverty, and most seniors rely on Social Security for most of their income. And that entitlement system has been one of the great successes in American history.
But it's unsustainable. It's going off the cliff.
Well, actually, my organization has put out a budget plan which would balance the budget by 2018, and it would do it in a sensible fashion by cutting the defense budget by $1 trillion in the next 10 years, which is feasible, raising those taxes on high earners and going back to the rates under Clinton, which, by the way, was a period of great economic growth. I mean, there's no evidence that high taxes on the rich reduce economic growth. We've had repeated periods of high growth in this country and high taxes on the rich.
Doesn't it change rich people's behavior?
Well, during the 1990s, we increased taxes on the rich, and they got a lot richer. We had a period of boom. We had, during the post-war era, a top tax rate of nearly 90%, and that was a period of great economic success. So this notion that somehow too much government spending decreases growth is not shown in our history, and it's not shown cross-nationally.
Well, of course it has. I mean, and if somebody is you know, as left as JFK realized that by cutting taxes in the 60s, the 90s, the benefit we got in the 90s, the economic growth.
When taxes were at 90%, almost nobody paid that.
Yes.
There were so
and the fact is that over history, taxes are a constant percent of GDP. But look, this debate is ultimately going to be about the role of government. Should the government do defense? Yes. So that shouldn't be the first thing we cut. I agree, it should be cut, but it shouldn't be the first. Should government be involved in massive redistributions of wealth across people? No, that's not what this country was founded. That's not the principle on which
massive, he says. There are poor people suffering.
But the poor people suffer more because of the redistribution.
Ron, we've had we've had a massive increase of wealth at the top in the last 20 years.
Absolutely, and that's a good thing. That's because we produced incredible amounts of wealth. These people increased their wealth because they're being productive. Now, to the extent that that's not true, it's the extent that the government intervenes. Let's cut corporate welfare. I'm all for that, and I don't think the right plan comes
Guys
close
both
to
agree
doing
on
enough
cutting
of that.
agriculture.
Back to the plan. The way out of this mess is to share the sacrifice, increase taxes on people who can most afford it, cut the defense budget, and get rid of some of those.
Even if you do that, it doesn't solve the problem. And it still doesn't change the very fact that what we have today is an enormous injustice in this country, where a growing number of Americans are living off of the work of other people. And we need to end that. And what we need is for an American who's born today to expect to have to save for retirement. What a concept. To expect to have to save for his own health care spending as he grows older, and to stop relying on my tax money.
I have to stop here, Yaron. Thank you, Yaron and David. Coming up, 3 cheers for Congressman Paul Ryan and the Republican Study Committee. No, 2, actually. I'll explain that when we return.